Executive functioning skills are at the heart of the challenges we observe in ADHD. We are going to cover 10 executive functions that teens with ADHD struggle with the most. And you're going to walk away from this video with a simple science-based strategy to improve each one of these critical skills. I'm Annie Adjen. I'm a certified ADHD coach. I work with teenagers, college students, and their parents to help them understand this complex condition, manage it really well, and tap into some of its many gifts. Let's define the term executive functions. They are the mental abilities necessary for successful management of one's self and one's own tasks. Some people refer to them as soft skills or life skills or performance skills. They are significantly delayed in their development in brains with ADHD. So I've included ways that you can promote and optimize functioning for the following 10 executive functions. The first is the ability to adapt thoughts and behaviors in response to changing situations or perspectives. ADHD brains can become rigid in the face of changes, and it can be hard for them to consider new perspectives or differing opinions. What can really help to improve cognitive flexibility is giving your teen lots of advanced warnings and give them lots of soft choices too. Say, hey kiddo, just a heads up, plan A got canceled. So do you want to do plan B or C? Soft choices make them feel like they have some control of the situation, and notifying them in advance of the changing winds gives them more time to come around and find their footing along the new path. Also, routine is queen for the ADHD teen. It might seem a little counterintuitive, but a very structured and predictable routine creates psychological security. So when the routine does change up, the ADHD brain is more stable and more able to ride the new wave. Next is emotional regulation. This is the skill that helps us manage our emotions and control our behavior. ADHD emotions are like a Ferrari with bicycle brakes. They rev up real fast, and kids have a hard time braking before a full emotional collision occurs. Teens with ADHD can be very deep feeling, which is wonderful. But because they're sensitive, their feelings tend to be hyperreactive. Their emotional responses can be intense and often out of scale with the stimulus that first caused the feeling. What helps tremendously is when you, the parents, stay totally imperturbable and you do not escalate with them. When they get upset, ask them, how can I help? Or what do you need? These questions from the parent are a little unexpected and cause them to pause and think, and maybe even answer those questions, which redirects the electricity in their brain from the emotional fight or flight region into the frontal lobes, into the thinking and logical part of the brain. This quells the intensity of the emotion, and then they can start thinking and hopefully acting a little more rationally. A favorite technique of my students is Dr. Dan Siegel's handy brain model. By tucking the emotional amygdala into the center of the brain where it belongs, and then wrapping the fingers of the prefrontal cortex over the amygdala so that it can govern over the emotions of the body. This gives students a kinesthetic reminder that they can remain calm and they aren't going to let the amygdala get all upset and flip their lid. Number 3 is metacognition. Metacognition is the ability to stand back and take a bird's eye view of oneself in a situation. It includes self-monitoring, self-evaluation, and think of it as self-reflection. What really helps lay the ground for metacognition to take root is a clever self-check habit by Dr. David Nowell, and it's called How Exactly Did You Do That? Get in the habit of asking yourself and your kids, hey, how exactly did you do that? How exactly did I do that? Especially when things go right. Hey guys, how exactly did we all get out the door on time this morning? In recalling and recollecting the steps taken which resulted in a goal reached, your teen is thinking back and reflecting. And it's one of the best ways to flex the skill of metacognition. Metacognition is one of the last executive functions to develop, but it's one of the most important. So start sharpening it now by thinking out loud in front of your kids and saying, wow, how is it that this year I got my taxes turned in on time? Hey kiddo, I didn't get any missing homework alerts from school this week. Great job. How exactly did you do that? Number 4. Organization. It's the ability to create and maintain systems to keep track of, well, just about anything from information, materials, to thoughts, ideas, and future plans. Signs of poor organization include a really messy backpack, lost assignments, clothes stuffed in closets and under the bed. Poorly organized thoughts show up as run-on sentences, difficulty being succinct when answering a question, as well as rushed speech or disjointed ideas. Here's what helps. Create a dedicated homework station at home. Make sure it's not in your teenager's bedroom. Make sure it's a clutter-free area and preferably close to where you are working or maybe prepping dinner so that you can frequently but discreetly just glance over and monitor your teenager's work. For backpack organization, 3 or 4 of these paper folders work the best. One brightly colored folder per subject, and inside one pocket is going to be the to-do work that needs to be completed and turned in. The other pocket is for graded work that's been turned back to the student. To promote fluid thoughts and clear ideas, have your teenager do a writing brain dump. That is capturing everything that comes to their mind, kind of like a stream of consciousness, and then sort through it to help them identify central themes and salient points. Students should always paste instructions directly onto their working document, then type their response right next to each question. After answering each question and every part of the writing prompt completely, then they delete the instructions from that document and turn it in. For reading, the KWL chart really works. The student asks, "What do I know about this topic?" Know starts with K. W is for want. What do I want to learn from this passage? And then the L comes at the end. What did I just learn from the reading? KWL brings goal-driven organization into their reading. The 5th executive function is impulse control, the capacity to think before acting, mindfully allowing for a pause before saying something or before acting. Your ADHD teen acts first and then thinks later. They might blurt things out, interrupt, and make quick decisions without realizing the consequences. Try using a pause button before speaking or acting. Have them take a big, deep breath. My students practice a box breathing tool for their pause button. 4 seconds in, 4 seconds hold, 4 seconds exhale, hold for 4. They complete one full box of breathing before they allow themselves to move ahead. Parents, coach your teen by walking through potentially sticky situations in advance. Predict those challenges, whether it's at sports practice, a social event, or maybe family dinners, and role play the situations with your teen beforehand. This rehearsing helps to head off impulsivity because it gives your teen a practiced response instead of reacting in the moment. You can say, "Let's plan how you're gonna handle it tonight at dinner if grandma serves you something that you do not like." Next is planning and prioritization. These are identifying steps in the order of importance toward reaching a desired goal or completing a task. What helps here is chunking down large assignments together with your teenager. Break everything into smaller steps and then put them in the student planner. Bite-sized tasks are less intimidating and much more manageable than trying to figure out how to eat the whole elephant. There's no better way to bolster the executive function of planning than with a student academic calendar or planner. Make it physical rather than digital for maximum results. Asking these questions will hone their skill of prioritization. What's the one thing that you could do right now that will make everything after easier? Well, what's due by 11:59 p.m. tonight? Can you start there? Kiddo, if starting with the hardest thing is just too hard, can you find an easy or shorter task to begin with? Lastly, go ahead and support them as their body double and ask them, "Can I help you get started? Would you like me to complete the even numbers and you do the odd ones? Do you stay focused better when I'm sitting right next to you or when I'm on the opposite side of the house?" Number 7 is task initiation and goal-driven persistence. This is the ability to start a task and the ability to persist long enough to finish that task. Just getting started really is one of the hardest things for an ADHD brain. But I have a great tool called Now or Never. And the students that I coach say it's their favorite and most transformational. The idea is that when you're given a task to do, especially by your teacher or a parent, activate your body faster than your brain has a chance to think or feel something about it. I tell them, start with something really small. Any small task that you feel a little bit of resistance to. Picking up your towel from the floor, turning out the lights when you exit a room, getting up when the alarm goes off instead of pressing snooze. Start small and then work up to the bigger, more daunting tasks. We call this DHT. Doing hard things. And as we DHT, do hard things, the anterior midcingulate cortex in the brain gets stronger and it even gets bigger. And then it becomes not only easier to initiate non-preferred tasks, but also a lot easier to persist and finish them off. Number 8. Sustained attention and focus is the ability to stay engaged in a task or situation despite distractions, fatigue, or boredom. It's a myth that teens with ADHD can't focus. Not only can they focus, they can hyperfocus, especially on things that really interest them. Where their attention is greatly challenged in ADHD is shifting attention when needed and focusing on the right thing at the right time and sustaining that focus long enough to complete a task, all while saying no to the many other tempting distractions. Timers and the Pomodoro technique are the best tools to harness your teen's gift of hyperfocus. These train your teen's brain to attend to the hard tasks and build up their tolerance to frustration while increasing stamina for longer and more sustained focus. It's as simple as setting a 25-minute timer, try to eliminate as many distractions as possible, and like a cerebral sprint, dive into the required task with effort and intention. When the timer's up, take a 5 or 10-minute break or longer if needed, and then repeat. Used worldwide by high achievers and successful students, the Pomodoro technique is like boot camp brain training for the ADHD brain, and it is so effective because it leverages their built-in power of hyperfocus for success. Number 9 is time management. This is the capacity to estimate how much time one has, how to allocate time, and how to stay within time limits and deadlines. This function creates a big obstacle for ADHD brains. In fact, some researchers say that people with ADHD are time blind, and many people with ADHD self-report experiencing only now and not now relative to their general sense of time. They report completely losing track of time, especially hyperfocusing on something that they're interested in, or on the other hand, procrastinating until total urgency and panic set in. Just like with focus and attention, timers and the Pomodoro technique are the first defense for time blindness. What also helps is making time as visible as possible with scheduling, time blocking, dry erase boards and calendars, and alarms. I also have my students practice estimating time by asking them, okay, so how many Pomodoros do you think it's going to take to finish that science assignment? Number 10 is working memory. This is the ability to hold on to and manipulate information in your mind over short periods. Working memory is essential for following instructions and performing more complex tasks. Your teenager might forget what they were doing in the middle of a task, they might lose track of what they just read, or they might experience difficulties with multi-step instructions. Working memory is one of the more difficult executive functions to improve. So instead of trying to sharpen this executive function, we simply support it with external science-based proven systems. External reminders, visual aids, structured daily routines, and assistive technology like apps are all key in working around challenges with working memory. One of the best ways to buttress this executive function is to write things down. Use those planners, calendars, lists, Post-its. The best strategy is going to be the one that your teenager uses. So again, remember, give them soft choices and ask your teen which system they want to try for a few weeks. And then check in with them by saying, so how's that one working for you? Do you want to keep it or do you want to try a new memory support system until you find the one you like? Parents, if you have more than one instruction at a time or more than one chore for your teen, they better be written down or else don't expect them to get done. And there you have all 10 executive functions: cognitive flexibility, emotional regulation, metacognition, organization, impulse control, planning and prioritization, task initiation and completion, sustained focus and attention, time management, and working memory. Consider applying one of these tips for the executive function where your teen stands to improve the most, and then observe what happens. And please leave a comment about which strategy you found helpful. Also, be sure to pass this video along to another parent who really needs some encouragement today. Until next time, keep leading with emotional maturity, flexibility, sustained focus on imperturbability, persistence, and love. And remember, I'm always in your corner, and I'm always wishing you all A's in your every endeavor.